started with a splash, cold, sticky, unexpected. A flight attendant turned, looked down, and froze. A can of Coca-Cola was dripping from the braids of a black woman in seat 3A. Her white blouse was soaked. Her hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the humiliation. Passengers nearby looked on, some in shock, others pretending they didn't see a thing. But the woman didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She didn't even ask why. She just looked forward, calm, composed, like someone who had nothing to prove, but everything to protect. What no one on that flight knew was this. The woman in 3A was married to one of the most powerful men in the country. A self-made billionaire. Private tech empire. Quiet, calculated, ruthless when crossed. And someone had just crossed the wrong woman. The flight had been routine. First-class passengers settling in with headphones and champagne. Flight crew making small talk. Everything was smooth until it wasn't. The stewardess said it was an accident. Said the can slipped from her tray. But someone else said it looked deliberate. That she gave the woman in 3A a cold look before accidentally letting it fall. That's when the questions started piling up. Was it really an accident? Or was this about race? Was this about power? About class? And more importantly, what happens when someone with billions decides he's not going to let it go? Within hours of landing, phones were ringing. Executives, lawyers, HR teams. No one expected the fallout to be this fast. Or this brutal. Entire departments were fired. Senior managers escorted out. The airline's PR team scrambled, but it was already too late. The video was out. People were talking. But what really happened that day in the sky? And why did the woman stay silent through it all? That's what we're about to uncover. Because when power meets pride and silence holds a secret, someone always pays the price. Stay with me. She didn't flinch when the soda hit her. Didn't yell. Didn't wipe it away. Just stared ahead. Eyes fixed on nothing, lips sealed. Her silence wasn't fear. It was precision. The kind that comes from experience. From learning long ago that sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Her name is Imani Blake, a former civil rights attorney, Harvard grad, mother of two, and wife to Darius Blake, a man Forbes called the quietest billionaire in tech. He rarely shows his face in public, doesn't do interviews, but everyone in Silicon Valley knows his name, and no one dares cross him twice. Imani met Darius back when they were both broke law students sharing a busted-down library printer. He fell in love with her fire. She fell for his focus. Over 2 decades, they built everything together, his empire, her advocacy work, their family. But while Darius earned headlines for billion-dollar patents and innovation awards, Imani stayed away from the spotlight. She didn't need fame, just respect, which is exactly what was stripped from her. 30,000 feet in the air, with a can of soda and a stare. The flight attendant, later identified as Lauren Kay, had worked the route for years. Quiet file. No known complaints. But something about her energy that day felt off, according to another crew member. Tense. Dismissive. Icy toward Imani from the moment she stepped on board. Imani had simply asked for sparkling water. What she got was Coca-Cola down her back. Now it could have ended there. An ugly, humiliating moment passed off as a clumsy mistake. But then came the whisper. A nearby passenger claimed they heard Lauren mutter something under her breath before the spill. Something sharp. Something racial. The airline tried to get ahead of it. Reached out with apologies, offered vouchers, promised an internal investigation. But by then, it was already moving faster than they could spin it. A fellow passenger had posted the photo online, Imani sitting drenched, her eyes glassy but unbroken. The caption read, "They did this to the wrong woman." Darius saw it from his office 3 time zones away. Within minutes, his private jet was rerouted. Within hours, he was face-to-face with the airline's top brass. Calm. Cold. Final. "We won't be handling this quietly," he said. But why did this moment hit so hard? Why this time when Imani had fought bigger fights in courtrooms and protests? Maybe because this wasn't about policy or politics. This was personal. A human being reduced. Disrespected in plain sight. And not one person, not the crew, not the passengers, stepped up in that moment to stop it. That was the part that broke her heart. But it didn't break her spirit. Now the world's watching. And the question isn't just what happened, but why. Was it racism, classism, negligence? Or something deeper, something still hidden, waiting to surface? Because someone on that flight knows the truth. And the Blakes? They're just getting started. The airline issued a statement the next morning, sterile, flat, dripping with corporate caution. We are aware of an incident involving a valued passenger and are conducting a thorough internal review. No mention of names. No apology. Just enough words to sound responsible without admitting fault. But that only made things worse. Because by now, people did know names. They knew the woman in seat 3A was Imani Blake. They knew who her husband was. And they knew that this wasn't just a PR problem, it was a reckoning. Back at the Blake estate in Monterey, the house was silent except for the sound of typing. Imani sat in her home office, alone, writing everything she remembered. The look on the flight attendant's face. The hush that fell over the cabin. The passenger who avoided her eyes. The one who looked like she wanted to say something but didn't. She wasn't writing for a lawsuit. Not yet. She was writing to remember because she learned long ago that memory fades fast when power tries to bury it. But this time, power was on her side. Almost. Because as the story gained traction, not everyone was rooting for the Blakes. Anonymous blogs started popping up with leaks from former employees. Whispers of Darius Blake's controlling nature. Claims that Imani was always demanding, entitled, hard to work with. Most were weak, clearly planted. But one hit differently. An ex-flight attendant posted a now-deleted thread claiming Lauren K. had once filed a quiet complaint about being harassed by a frequent flyer. A man who, the thread alleged, bore a striking resemblance to a certain billionaire. There was no proof. No names. But the implication was clear, maybe she had a reason to snap. Imani saw it and paused. Not because she believed it, but because she knew how easily truth bends in the court of public opinion. And now the court was full. Meanwhile, inside the airline's boardroom, chaos brewed. The CEO, Mitchell Crane, was cornered. On one side, his legal team begged for delay. On the other, a powerful group of investors demanded swift action before stock prices tanked. Someone had to take the fall. But who? And then came another twist. The flight's onboard camera, meant for security, captured the moment the can spilled. But the footage was corrupted. Only static remained during the seconds that mattered most. Glitch? Coincidence? Or cover-up? Darius didn't buy it. He had his own investigators now. Private security teams, digital forensics experts, even a retired federal prosecutor. The airline was playing defense. The Blakes were building a case. But here's where it gets messy. Their teenage daughter, Nia, was now getting dragged into it. Her private Instagram was flooded with DMs. Some supportive, others cruel, a few threatening. And that's when Imani cracked, not in public, but at home, behind closed doors. Because she could handle being disrespected. She could handle lies. But bringing her children into it? That crossed a line. And yet she hesitated. Because going public meant exposure. Scrutiny. Old wounds reopened. Stories they'd buried. Mistakes made. Power comes with a cost, and sometimes the cost is privacy. So the question became, how far do you go to make it right? And what happens when the line between justice and vengeance starts to blur? What no one knew yet was that someone on that plane, one quiet passenger near the back, saw everything. And they're about to come forward. But not for justice. For leverage. The email came at 2:17 a.m. No sender name. No subject line. Just a single sentence, I saw what really happened. Attached was a phone number. No other details. Darius read it 3 times before forwarding it to his security chief. Within minutes, the number was traced, burner phone, prepaid. Unregistered. Dead end. But someone was talking. And they were close. Across the estate, Imani was awake too. She hadn't slept more than an hour in 3 days. Her inbox was flooded with messages from women. Black women. Working mothers. Airline staff. Stories of humiliation. Of being ignored, dismissed, silenced. Her pain was rippling far beyond her own. But something else was growing too. Doubt. Not about what happened on the plane. That moment was crystal clear. But about what they were turning this into. A full-scale war. Billionaire versus corporation. Her name now a trending hashtag, dissected by strangers. And then there was Nia, her daughter, her mirror. Once vibrant, now withdrawn. Social media gone? Friends silent. The weight of it pressing in, quiet and cruel. In the kitchen, Darius poured black coffee. No sugar. No sleep. He was locked in now, hardened. Every time he looked at Imani, he saw that stain on her shirt, saw her frozen expression, and every time it lit something dangerous in him. But Imani wasn't frozen anymore. She wanted answers, not vengeance. Truth, not spectacle. And the deeper this went, the more it started to look like both sides were hiding something. Because just yesterday, a journalist she trusted sent a cryptic message: "You need to see Lauren's file." HR buried something in 21. Not just flight complaints. Something bigger. Before she could ask what, the journalist went dark. Account deleted. Number disconnected. Meanwhile, the airline scrambled. A press conference was rumored. Settlement talks whispered. But internally, someone was panicking. Because the corrupted flight footage? Darius's tech team managed to recover fragments. Seconds. Blurry but enough to raise more questions. The can didn't just fall. Lauren's arm moved. Fast. Intentionally. Her mouth shaped words. But no audio. And just as Darius prepared to release the frame publicly, another message came through. "Don't. You're not ready for what comes next." Now Imani sat with her lawyer, staring at a manila folder marked confidential. Inside, Lauren's history, disciplinary reports, psychological evals, and one sealed document blacklisted from HR access. Handwritten note: "Do not open without legal counsel present." That's when the doorbell rang. 3 rapid knocks. Nia opened it. And standing there was Lauren. Alive. Alone. Eyes red. Voice shaking. "I need to talk to your mom. Before it's too late." Imani appeared behind her daughter, heart racing, frozen in the hallway. Because whatever came next would change everything. Lauren didn't say a word until she was inside. Not until Imani closed the study door and pulled the curtains shut. No one else needed to hear this. "I shouldn't be here," Lauren whispered. "But they won't protect me. Not anymore." She slid a flash drive across the desk. "They told me to stay quiet. Said I'd lose everything if I didn't play along. But it wasn't just about you. It never was." Imani stared at her, heart pounding. "What was it about?" Lauren exhaled, then finally spoke the truth. "It was a setup." The words didn't land right at first. "A setup?" Imani blinked, confused, disbelieving. But Lauren kept going. "There was someone else on that flight. Not a passenger. Someone watching. Recording. I didn't know until after. They threatened to leak something from my past. Something sealed. Unless I created a moment." Imani stepped back. "You're saying they made you spill that Coke?" Lauren's eyes filled. "I didn't mean for it to hit you. I thought I'd just shake things up. 'Cause a scene. Nothing physical. But I slipped. You were never supposed to get hurt." On the flash drive, footage, emails, proof of communication between Lauren and a third party, an encrypted channel tied to a private security firm, not owned by the airline. Owned by a competitor of Darius Blake. Imani froze. It wasn't racism. Not purely. It wasn't an angry flight attendant with a grudge. It was engineered. The entire incident. The photo. The outrage. All part of a silent attack on Darius. Imani's humiliation wasn't random. It was collateral damage in a corporate war. And someone knew she wouldn't stay silent. Across town, Darius stood in a boardroom finalizing plans to release the footage they recovered. He was ready to detonate everything, publicly accuse, sue, fire. His legal team, PR staff, and media partners were on standby. Until his assistant ran in, face pale, holding her phone. "Sir, you need to hear something." She played a voice message. Imani's voice. "Don't release anything. Not yet. It's bigger than we thought. I need you to trust me." Darius paused. Trust her? He'd spent the past week building a war machine, certain they were under attack. And now his wife, his anchor, was telling him to hold. But he'd already made calls. Burned bridges. Fired half the airline's leadership. The media storm was already rolling in. And now it might be aimed at the wrong people. Back at the house, Lauren was shaking. "There's one more thing," she said. "The person who contacted me, they're close to you. One of his people. Someone inside your circle." Imani stiffened. Inside? She thought of the lawyer Darius had brought in. The investigator who insisted on going public. The assistant who always seemed too eager. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. This was betrayal. And they were already in too deep. ChatGPT said. Darius didn't wait for the room to settle. He walked out of the boardroom without a word, ignoring the barrage of questions behind him. His wife had never told him to stop ever. And if she was saying hold back now, it meant everything he thought he knew was wrong. Imani met him at the edge of the estate's private garden, flash drive in hand. "We were being used," she said. "All of us. That flight, that woman, me, it was all bait. Someone in your circle sold us out." Darius didn't blink. "Who?" Imani hesitated, then handed over a printed transcript Lauren had also given her. One name stood out. Someone they'd both trusted for years. Caleb Roston. Darius's head of strategy. The man who first told him to go scorched earth. Who'd insisted on controlling the narrative. Who had access to Darius's travel, private communications, and even the internal flight investigation. "He brokered a silent deal with Core Systems," Imani said. "They're trying to destabilize your company before the merger." "You were never the target, Darius." "I was." Darius clenched his jaw. Not out of rage. Out of shame. They'd built this empire together. He'd sworn to protect her. And somehow he'd let her be weaponized. Publicly. For profit. But it wasn't too late. That night, they invited Lauren back, this time with legal counsel. Imani didn't press charges. She didn't need to. She gave Lauren a choice: testify to what happened, help expose the truth, and walk away with protection. Lauren agreed. The next morning, Darius made a live appearance. No filters. No PR team. Just him and Imani. Together. They told the world the story, not the version the media had twisted, not the rage-fueled viral campaign, but the real one. They showed the footage. The documents. The emails. They revealed how easily justice is manipulated when truth becomes currency. And they named names. Caleb was arrested that evening on charges of corporate sabotage and conspiracy. Core Systems issued a denial, then promptly lost $800 million in market value in 24 hours. The airline settled quietly and in full. But Imani refused their hush clause. Instead, she started a non-profit for workers like Lauren, trapped between orders and survival. The video of her speech, calm, direct, fierce, went viral. Not because of scandal, but because of clarity. The final twist? Imani later found the original corrupted footage buried deep in Lauren's inbox. It showed the moment before the spill. A hand brushing Lauren's shoulder. A whisper. It wasn't her fault. She was triggered. By Caleb. He'd boarded that flight last minute. Sat 5 rows back. Dressed like a passenger. Covered just enough to stay unnoticed. He orchestrated it all. Then got off the plane without saying a word. And somehow they still won. Because Imani never lost herself. She never screamed. Never crumbled. She took the hit. Sat with it. And waited for the truth to come out. And when it did, she didn't need revenge. She got justice. 6 weeks later, the headlines had moved on. The chaos had quieted. But for Imani, the world still felt different. She sat on the porch of their Monterey home, warm tea in hand, watching the ocean breathe in and out. Not far away, Darius was laughing with Nia, tossing stones into the tide. The air smelled like salt and pine. And for the first time in months, maybe years, everything felt still. The firestorm had burned fast. But the scars were real. Lauren had entered a witness protection agreement. She'd given a full statement, testified in the case against Caleb Roston, and disappeared from public view. Imani didn't hear from her again. But she didn't need to. Their story was written, etched into every voice that spoke up after. The nonprofit Imani launched, Altitude, had already processed over 2,000 reports from workers across airlines, hotels, and service industries. Real people telling real stories, no longer in silence. Darius stepped away from his company's front line. He named a new CEO, someone with a reputation for integrity over dominance. He stayed on as chairman but now spent more time at home, in the community, and, maybe most surprisingly, offline. Power had taught him many things, but this taught him humility. And Nia? She found her voice in unexpected ways. Not through interviews or statements, but through art. Her final school project? A photo series titled When They Look Away. It featured empty seats, half-finished drinks, forgotten uniforms. The quiet details most people miss, but she'd learned to notice. And for Imani, everything changed, but nothing broke. Her strength didn't come from retaliation. It came from restraint. From knowing when to speak, when to wait, and when to act. From understanding that real justice doesn't always look like punishment, it looks like truth. In an interview weeks later, when asked why she didn't push harder, take bigger legal swings, go scorched earth like many expected, Imani said this: "We win when we don't become what tried to break us." That's the difference between power and control. One changes the world. The other destroys it. She smiled, then added, "And I didn't survive all this just to become someone I don't respect." Her words echoed far beyond that stage. People reposted it, quoted it, printed it on shirts. But more than anything, it made others think about dignity, about silence, and about the quiet violence of everyday disrespect. And maybe most importantly, it made people ask, what would I have done on that flight? Would I have spoken up? Would I have looked away? Because in a world full of power plays, sometimes the real revolution starts with one woman refusing to lose herself. If this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Speak up when you see someone disrespected. Use your voice, your vote, your presence. Support those who stand quietly for what's right. And when the moment comes to act, don't look away.